Why hello, I'm Magic Cyborg and I'm a nerd who makes stuff. Thank you for joining me today. In this video we are talking about my sculpting workflow. I've been doing this series for a bit of a hot minute now, so I thought I'd share how I make these sculptures. And for our subject today, it was suggested by LDVR7. Thank you for your suggestion. It's actually kind of fitting because this certain someone just celebrated their 70th anniversary. So today, we are going to be making the one and only... Wait, did you hear something? Step 1. References. All of my sculpts start out with me looking for reference pictures online. I would usually pick out 2 or 3 and make sure that they're all from official sources. This one gives me a look at the full body, this one gives me a look at the back, and this one gives me a closer look at the head. Speaking of which, step 2, the head. With my reference pictures picked out, I hop into VR and get to work. The art program that I'm using is called Medium, and I use it to make all of my sculptures for this series. I usually start out with a sphere and shape it to look like the head, using mainly the clay, smooth, and move tools, which each do exactly as they sound. Now I'm not going to add any intricate details yet. I'm only adding the most distinct features such as the nose and the eye sockets. Step 3. Draw the rest of the frickin' lizard. I'm not joking either. Once I'm happy with how the head looks currently, I move on to, well, the rest of the body. Medium has something called stamps, which you can think of them as like 3D brushes. And luckily for me, Medium has a bunch of human body part stamps, which I've used for the torso and the arms. Even though our subject isn't human, these stamps make for a great starting point. And like the head, we are only focusing on the basic form and will worry about all the details later. You might have noticed that the pose is looking kinda goofy, but I also save posing for later as I want to spend as much time in mirror mode as I can. I should also probably mention that the torso, arms, legs, and the head are all on their own layers. This allows me to position each body part individually, whereas if they were all on one layer, they would all move at once. Now, if you're coming from the 2D art world, you're probably confused as to why a 3D art program would need layers, but really it's just Medium's way of saying objects and layer order doesn't really matter. Step 3. Details. I usually start this next step off by going back to the head, and this is where I'll introduce the cut tool. Not only is the cut tool used to divide clay into 2 parts, but it will separate the 2 pieces into 2 different layers as well. I often use the cut tool to help me pose arms, legs, or in this case, jaws. Still focused on the head, I added more detail by adding in the teeth, gums, and even the eyeballs. And after that, hold on a second, I just realized something. Let me readjust here for a second. This video makes this sculpting process look a lot more structured than it actually is. And contrary to what this video is implying, I don't have a real strict step-by-step process. I just kinda go with the flow. And it's probably the most apparent in this sort of detailing phase. I jump all over the place. I mean, look at this footage. I'm working on the spikes on the back, and then I stop doing that abruptly to work on the arm a little bit, and then I completely remake the feet from scratch. Seems like something I should have done in step 2. And then I go back to the spikes to polish them up a bit. If this doesn't scream ADHD, I don't know what does. Now, upon watching these time lapses, you would probably get this impression that I'm a lot more methodical with a step-by-step process. But I wouldn't say that's fully true. As I'm sure you guys know, a lot of footage gets cut in order to form the final edit that you guys see in these videos. And in that cut footage, you would see me make a bunch of mistakes and decisions that would feel out of order. I guess what I'm trying to say here is that I don't have it all figured out, and I likely never will. And to further prove this, step 4 is something I've never actually tried before: texturing. What I mean by texturing is basically making Godzilla look less smooth. I did this using Medium's rock stamps in order to make Godzilla's skin more bumpy, and holy crap am I glad that I did this. Every time I work on these sculptures, I have a sort of eureka moment. Like the sculpture just looks stupid and I start to doubt if the sculpture is going to turn out good. But then I do something. And I say something because it changes for each sculpt. But I do something and it just turns everything around and the sculpture just starts looking awesome. And this texturing process is what did it for me. This was the eureka moment. I was really hating how Godzilla looked up until I did this. I don't know why, but it almost looks like a Godzilla suit now, and though that wasn't exactly the intention, I can't say I'm complaining. So with our texturing done, I move on to step 5, painting. I know I said I don't exactly follow a step-by-step process, but this is something that I do tend to save towards the end. So often what I use painting for is to add shadows onto the sculpture, specifically into all of the crevices and all of the darker areas of the sculpture. To all of my artists watching, you could think of it as adding ambient occlusion. But in all honesty, I often just skip this process because it's quite subtle that I doubt many people would notice anyway. So I only really do this to sculptures that I really like. And boy, is this one of them. So whenever I'm ready to call a sculpture finished, I play around with medium's material settings. This allows you to make your sculpture look shiny, metallic, or even make things glow. I would show you footage of me doing this, but good old Mr. Reliable over here forgot to push the unpause button while recording. Whoops. So, there you have it. Now that you know how exactly these sculptures are made, what would you like to see me sculpt next? Feel free to let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching and have an amazing day.